The morning sun shone bright over New Haven Prime, just like it had for the past 20 years. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the main colony building, watching the mining teams prepare for another day of work. The sound of machinery filled the air as the workers loaded their equipment onto transport vehicles. Jake had been running this mining colony since its early days when only 50 people lived here. Now over 3,000 colonists called New Haven Prime their home. They had built schools, hospitals, shops, and even a small park where children played after school. It was a good life, far from the crowded cities of Earth. His wife Lisa worked as the head doctor at the Colony Medical Center. She had saved many lives over the years, from mining accidents to simple illnesses. Their 8-year-old daughter Amy was the joy of their lives. She had grown up here, knowing every family in the colony. The miners loved her bright smile and curious questions about their work. Amy was playing with her friends near the school when the first alarm sounded. It was not the usual work bell or mealtime signal. This was the emergency alarm that had never been used before. All the children looked up at the speakers, confused by the loud, urgent sound. Ben Rodriguez sat at his desk in the communications center, staring at his screen with wide eyes. He had been monitoring space traffic for 12 years and had never seen readings like these. Something massive was approaching their solar system, something bigger than any ship in the human fleet. "Commander Morrison to communications center immediately." Ben spoke into his radio, his voice shaking slightly. He ran his hands through his hair and checked the readings again. The numbers were still the same. Whatever was coming toward them was enormous. Jake arrived at the communications center within minutes, still carrying his morning coffee. "What do we have, Ben?" Ben pointed at the large display screen showing a 3-dimensional map of their solar system. A red dot was moving steadily toward New Haven Prime. "Sir, I picked up this contact about an hour ago. It's moving at incredible speed, and the size readings are off the charts." Jake set down his coffee and studied the display. "How big are we talking about?" "According to these readings, it's larger than our biggest cargo ships. Much larger. And it's not following any known flight path or responding to our communication attempts." Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. New Haven Prime had always been peaceful. They had good relations with all the trading companies and neighboring colonies. No one had any reason to threaten them. "How long until it reaches us?" Jake asked. Ben checked his calculations. "At current speed, approximately 4 hours, sir." Jake grabbed his radio. "All department heads to the command center immediately. This is not a drill." Within 30 minutes, the colony's leadership had gathered in the command center. Lisa Morrison sat next to her husband, having left her medical duties to the other doctors. Chief Engineer Danny Cooper looked worried as he studied the sensor data. Security Chief Carol Williams was checking her equipment inventory. "We need to assume this could be hostile," Jake told the group. "Carol, what are our defensive capabilities?" Carol pulled up the colony's defense systems on her tablet. "We have 12 automated defense turrets around the perimeter, basic plasma cannons that can handle small raiders or dangerous wildlife. We also have personal weapons for the security team, but nothing designed for large-scale combat." "What about evacuation procedures?" Lisa asked. "We have 3 cargo shuttles that can carry about 200 people each," Danny answered. "It would take multiple trips to evacuate everyone, and that's assuming the shuttles can launch safely." Jake nodded grimly. "Send a message to Colonial Command. Request immediate military assistance. Also begin quiet preparations for evacuation, but don't trigger a panic yet." As the hours passed, more details became clear about their approaching visitor. It was not a ship in any traditional sense. The sensor readings showed a mix of organic and mechanical components, like nothing in their databases. It seemed to be alive, but also constructed of metal and advanced materials. Amy Morrison was in her classroom when Mrs. Peterson, her teacher, received a message on her communication device. The older woman's face went pale as she read it. She looked at the 23 children in her care, all between 6 and 10 years old. "Children, we're going to play a special game today," Mrs. Peterson said with a forced smile. "We're going to practice our emergency procedures. Everyone needs to go to the safety building with their families. Amy raised her hand. Is everything okay, Mrs. Peterson? You look scared. Mrs. Peterson knelt down next to Amy's desk. Sometimes, adults have to handle difficult situations, sweetheart. Your job is to stay with your parents and be brave. The children were escorted to the central safety building, a reinforced structure designed to protect colonists during severe weather. Parents were already gathering there, holding their families close and speaking in worried whispers. Lisa Morrison hugged Amy tightly when she arrived at the safety building. Mom, what's happening? Amy asked, sensing the fear in the adult voices around her. Something is coming to visit our colony, Lisa explained carefully. We don't know if it's friendly or not, so we're being extra careful. Amy looked around at all the worried faces. Are we going to be okay? Lisa kissed her daughter's forehead. Your father and I will make sure you're safe. That's a promise. 2 hours before the estimated arrival time, Jake stood in the communications center watching their visitor approach. The thing was now close enough for visual contact, and what they saw took their breath away. It was a creature unlike anything they had ever imagined, standing nearly 300 feet tall. It moved through space on 6 massive legs that ended in claws the size of cargo containers. Its body was covered in thick, dark armor that reflected the light of their sun. Weapon-like structures covered. Its hide and a crown of sensor equipment surrounded what appeared to be its head. It's beautiful and terrifying at the same time, Ben whispered, staring at the display screen. Jake activated the colony-wide communication system. Attention all colonists. This is Commander Morrison. An unknown entity is approaching our colony. All civilians should remain in the safety buildings until further notice. Our defense systems are active and help is on the way. As Jake spoke, the creature entered their planet's atmosphere. It moved with surprising grace for something so large, its legs finding purchase on the rocky ground outside the colony. When it landed, the ground shook like an earthquake and several buildings lost their windows from the vibration. The creature stood still for several moments, its sensor crown turning slowly as it examined the colony. Then, without warning, it began to move toward their outer buildings. The first structure it encountered was a storage warehouse containing mining equipment. The creature extended one of its massive claws and carefully, almost gently, began to tear the building apart. It moved each piece of debris aside with precision as if searching for something inside. It's not destroying randomly, Carol observed, watching the creature's methodical approach. It's taking that building apart piece by piece. Jake activated the defense turrets. All units fire at will. Plasma bolts streaked toward the massive creature, striking its armored hide with brilliant flashes of light. The creature paused in its work and turned toward the source of the attack. For a moment, everyone held their breath, waiting to see how it would respond. The creature looked at the defense turrets for several seconds, then simply turned back to its work on the warehouse. The plasma bolts had left no visible damage on its armor. The weapons aren't working, Carol reported unnecessarily. Everyone could see that their most powerful defenses were completely ineffective. The creature finished dismantling the first building and moved to the next one, continuing its careful, methodical destruction. Whatever it was looking for, it was determined to find it, and nothing they had could stop it. The emergency signal from New Haven Prime reached Colonial Command 6 hours after the creature's arrival. Within minutes, the fastest ships in the sector were racing toward the colony at maximum speed. Captain Ryan Murphy commanded the destroyer, USS Valiant, the first military vessel to respond to the crisis. Ryan had fought pirates and hostile aliens for 15 years, but nothing had prepared him for what he saw when the Valiant dropped out of hyperspace. The massive creature stood in the middle of what used to be the colony's industrial district, methodically tearing apart building after building. Smoke rose from several locations where the creature had passed. "Dear God," whispered Lieutenant Susan Davis, the ship's tactical officer. "How big is that thing?" Ryan studied the readings on his command screen. "Computer estimates 300 feet tall, maybe more. I've never seen anything like it." The Valiant's communication officer, Ensign Peter Young, contacted the colony. "New Haven Prime, this is the USS Valiant. We're here to help. What's the situation down there?" Jake Morrison's voice crackled through the speakers, filled with exhaustion and worry. "Captain Murphy, thank God you're here. This thing has been destroying our colony for hours. Our weapons don't even scratch it. We've lost about 30% of our buildings, but so far no casualties." Ryan ordered his ship to take a closer look at the creature. As the Valiant moved into position, the creature stopped its work and looked up at the ship. For a long moment, the two forces studied each other. "Sir, should we open fire?" Susan asked, her finger hovering over the weapons controls. "Wait," Ryan said. "Let's see what it does first." The creature watched the ship for several more seconds, then turned back to its work on a communications tower. It pulled the tower apart, with the same careful precision it had shown with the other buildings, examining each piece before setting it aside. "It's not attacking us," Peter observed. "It could have fired at us when we approached, but it didn't." Ryan nodded. "But it's not stopping its work either. Open fire with the main guns, target the center of mass." The Valiant's plasma cannons erupted in brilliant streams of energy. The bolts struck the creature's armored back, creating spectacular explosions of light and heat. The creature stopped working and turned to face the ship again. Everyone on the bridge held their breath, waiting for the creature's response. To their amazement, the creature simply looked at them for a moment, then returned to dismantling the communications tower. The powerful weapons that could destroy a building had left no visible damage on its hide. "Impossible," Susan muttered. "Those weapons should have at least knocked it down." More ships arrived throughout the day. The battlecruiser USS Freedom, commanded by Admiral Helen Brooks, brought the heaviest weapons in the fleet. Destroyers, frigates, and even a few experimental ships joined the growing armada above New Haven Prime. Ground forces also arrived to help defend the colony. Marine Colonel Patricia Hayes led a team of specialists, including Sergeant Frank Carter, an expert in explosives, and Dr. Kevin Wright, a scientist who studied alien life forms. Patricia's team set up a command post in the colony's main building, which the creature had not yet approached. From there, they could observe the creature's behavior and look for weaknesses. "I've been watching this thing for 3 hours, Patricia told her team. "It's not acting like a typical predator or invader. Look at how it moves." On the observation screen, they watched the creature carefully take apart a storage facility. It moved each piece of debris to a specific location, creating organized piles of different materials. Dr. Wright adjusted his glasses and leaned closer to the screen. "It's sorting the materials. Metal here, concrete there, electronic components in another pile. This isn't random destruction." Frank Carter, who had spent years blowing things up, shook his head. "If I wanted to destroy a building, I'd use explosives, or just knock it down. This thing is taking everything apart piece by piece. It's like it's looking for something." Patricia contacted Admiral Brooks on her radio. "Admiral, we think this creature is searching for something. Its behavior suggests intelligence and purpose, not mindless destruction." Admiral Brooks had reached the same conclusion from her observation of the creature. "Colonel, we've tried every weapon in our arsenal. Plasma cannons, kinetic rounds, even experimental energy weapons. Nothing affects it. The thing seems to absorb or deflect everything we throw at it." The battle continued through the night. Wave after wave of attacks struck the creature, but nothing slowed its methodical work. It moved from building to building, in a pattern that seemed random at first, but Dr. Wright began to see a logic to its movements. "It's working in a grid pattern," he announced to the command team. "Starting from the outside and moving inward, but it's skipping certain buildings." Patricia studied the map showing the creature's path. "What kind of buildings is it skipping?" Kevin checked his notes. "Residential areas, the school, the medical center, the recreation facilities. It's only targeting industrial and infrastructure buildings." This observation led to a disturbing realization. The creature was avoiding areas where people lived and worked closely together. When evacuation shuttles launched from the spaceport, the creature paused its work until the shuttles were safely away. "It knows we're here," Patricia said quietly. "It's deliberately avoiding civilian casualties." As the second day began, the creature had destroyed nearly half of the colony's infrastructure. The remaining defenders were running low on ammunition and energy for their weapons. More importantly, they were running out of hope. Admiral Brooks called a meeting of all senior officers. The holographic conference room aboard the USS Freedom filled with worried faces from around the fleet. "We've exhausted every conventional option," Brooks began. "Our weapons are ineffective and the creature shows no signs of stopping. I've received authorization from Colonial Command to use orbital bombardment." The room fell silent. Orbital bombardment meant using the fleet's most powerful weapons to destroy everything in a large area. It would stop the creature, but it would also destroy what remained of the colony. Captain Murphy was the first to speak. "Admiral, there are still civilians down there. The evacuation isn't complete. We have underground shelters that can protect them from the bombardment," Brooks replied. "It's not ideal, but it may be our only option." Colonel Hayes joined the conference from the surface. "Admiral, request permission to continue studying the creature. We're learning things that might help us find another solution." Brooks nodded. "You have 24 hours, Colonel. If we don't find another way by then, we proceed with the bombardment." Back on the surface, Dr. Wright worked through the night analyzing every piece of data they had collected about the creature. He studied its movements, its behavior, and the strange energy readings that came from its body. "There's something here," he told Patricia as dawn broke over the ruined colony. "The creature's bio-readings show neural activity that's off the charts. It's not just intelligent, it's processing information at an incredible rate." Patricia looked at the data on Wright's tablet. "What kind of information?" "That's what I can't figure out. The patterns suggest it's running some kind of search algorithm. But searching for what?" As they spoke, the creature continued its work on the colony's power plant. It moved with the same careful precision, sorting materials and examining each component before setting it aside. Amy Morrison watched the creature from the safety building's observation window. While the adults argued about weapons and strategies, she noticed something they had missed. The creature's movements reminded her of something, but she couldn't quite figure out what. "Daddy," she said when her father came to check on her. "Why? Does the monster look sad?" Jake Morrison looked out at the massive creature tearing apart their home. "Sad? Amy, that thing is destroying our colony." But Amy pressed her small hand against the window and watched the creature's movements more carefully. "It looks like Mrs. Peterson when she lost her wedding ring and was looking through all the desks in the classroom, scared and sad and trying really hard to find something important." Jake dismissed his daughter's observation as childish imagination, but Dr. Lisa Morrison overheard the conversation. As a doctor, she had learned to pay attention when children made unusual observations about behavior. Sometimes they saw things that adults missed. That night, as the fleet prepared for the final bombardment, Lisa Morrison found herself thinking about her daughter's words. What if Amy was right? What if the creature wasn't destroying the colony out of malice, but out of desperation? Admiral Helen Brooks stood on the bridge of the USS Freedom, staring at the authorization codes that had just arrived from Earth. The message was clear and direct. She had permission to use the fleet's most devastating weapons against the creature, even if it meant destroying everything that remained of New Haven Prime. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "all ships are in position for orbital bombardment. Targeting systems are locked on the creature's location." Brooks nodded grimly. She had hoped it would not come to this, but conventional weapons had proven completely useless. The creature continued its methodical destruction of the colony, showing no signs of stopping or changing its behavior. "How long until the civilian evacuation is complete?" she asked. "Colonel Hayes reports that all remaining colonists are in the underground shelters. The shelters should protect them from the bombardment effects, but the surface structures will be completely destroyed." Brooks activated her communication system to address the entire fleet. "All ships, prepare for coordinated orbital strike. We will fire simultaneously to maximize damage to the target. This is our last option to stop this creature." On the surface, Colonel Patricia Hayes received the final warning about the bombardment. She had less than 2 hours to get her team to safety and make any last observations about the creature. Most of her Marines had already moved to the underground bunkers. but she kept a small team with her to monitor the situation until the final moments. Dr. Kevin Wright was still analyzing data in their temporary command post. He had discovered something important about the creature's neural patterns, but he needed more time to understand what it meant. "Colonel, look at these readings," Kevin said, pointing to his tablet screen. "The creature's brain activity spikes every time it finishes examining a building. It's not just searching randomly, it's following some kind of specific pattern or instruction set." Patricia studied the data. "Like a computer program?" "Exactly. But the frustration levels in its neural patterns are increasing. Whatever it's programmed to find, it's not finding it." Frank Carter, who had been placing explosive charges as a backup plan, returned to the command post. "Colonel, I've been watching this thing work up close. It's incredibly careful with the debris. It examines every piece like it's looking for something specific." "What kind of thing?" Patricia asked. Frank shrugged. "Could be anything. A person, an object, some kind of technology. But it's definitely searching, not just destroying." Meanwhile, in the underground safety shelter, Amy Morrison sat with her mother and the other colonists. The shelter was crowded and scary, with thick concrete walls and dim emergency lighting. The adults whispered about the coming bombardment, their voices filled with worry and fear. Amy had been thinking about the creature all day. Something about its behavior reminded her of her own experiences, but the adults would not listen when she tried to explain. They were too focused on their weapons and military plans. "Mom," Amy said quietly, "can I ask you something?" Lisa Morrison looked down at her daughter. The stress of the past 2 days showed on her face, but she tried to smile. "Of course, sweetheart. What is it? Remember when we went to the big city on Earth last year and I got lost in the shopping center?" Lisa nodded. "Yes, that was very scary for both of us. I knocked over a lot of things while I was looking for you. I was so scared and confused that I made a big mess. But I wasn't trying to be bad. I just wanted to find you." Lisa tilted her head, wondering where this conversation was leading. "I remember. You were just frightened and trying to find your way back to me." Amy looked toward the ceiling as if she could see through the concrete to the creature above. What if the big creature is lost too? What if it's scared and looking for something just like I was? Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. Her daughter's innocent observation echoed what she had been thinking since yesterday. What if the creature was not a destroyer but something else entirely? "Amy, that's a very interesting thought. But what could something that big be looking for?" Amy considered this seriously. Maybe it's family, or its home, or maybe something that belongs to it? Before Lisa could respond, Jake Morrison approached them. His face was grim as he delivered the news about the orbital bombardment. "Lisa, Amy, I need to tell you something important. The military is going to use very powerful weapons to stop the creature. We'll be safe down here, but everything on the surface will be destroyed." Amy looked up at her father with wide eyes. "Even the creature?" "Yes, even the creature. It's the only way to stop it from destroying more of our home." Amy was quiet for a long moment, then asked, "Daddy, what if the creature is just lost and scared? What if killing it is wrong?" Jake knelt down next to his daughter. "Amy, sometimes adults have to make difficult decisions to protect people. This creature has destroyed most of our colony. We can't let it hurt anyone." "But it hasn't hurt anyone," Amy pointed out. "Mrs. Peterson said no one has been killed or even injured. Maybe it doesn't want to hurt people." Jake exchanged a look with his wife. Their 8-year-old daughter was asking questions that the military commanders had not fully considered. Dr. Lisa Morrison made a decision that would change everything. "Jake, I want to take Amy to see the creature before the bombardment." "What?" "Lisa, that's insane. It's too dangerous. What? No, listen to me. As a doctor, I've learned that children often see things about patient behavior that adults miss. They notice details that we overlook because we're focused on other things." Jake shook his head. "I won't risk our daughter's life on a child's imagination." "It's not imagination," Lisa insisted. "Amy has been watching this creature for 2 days, and she's noticed something important." What if she's right? What if we're about to kill something that's just lost and afraid? Their conversation was interrupted by an announcement over the shelter's communication system. Colonel Hayes was calling for any volunteers with expertise in xenobiology or animal behavior to assist with final observations before the bombardment. Lisa stood up. That's my answer. I'm going up there. Lisa, no, I can't lose you both. You won't lose us, but we might be about to make a terrible mistake, and our daughter might be the only one who can prevent it. Against all military protocols and her husband's wishes, Lisa Morrison convinced Colonel Hayes to let her bring Amy to observe the creature from a safe distance. The colonel was desperate enough to try anything, even listening to a child's observations. They set up an observation post in a building that the creature had not yet approached. Through reinforced windows, Amy watched the massive being continue its methodical work on what remained of the colony's central power station. Tell me what you see, Amy, Dr. Wright said gently. He had brought his instruments to measure the creature's behavior patterns while Amy made her observations. Amy pressed her face against the window and watched carefully. It's sad, she said after several minutes. Really, really sad and scared. How can you tell? Wright asked, genuinely curious. Watch how it moves, Amy explained. When my dog Charlie lost his favorite toy, he would search everywhere, moving things around very carefully, just like that. And see how it keeps looking up at the sky? Charlie would do that too, like he was hoping someone would help him find his toy. Wright checked his instruments. The creature's neural activity showed patterns consistent with what Amy was describing. High stress levels, repetitive searching behavior, and periodic pauses that suggested hope followed by disappointment. There's something else, Amy continued. Watch what happens when it hears children's voices from the shelter. As if on cue, the sound of children crying drifted from one of the nearby underground shelters. The creature immediately stopped its work and tilted its massive head toward the sound. Its weapon ports, which had been glowing faintly, went completely dark. It likes children, Amy said simply. It doesn't want to scare them. Dr. Wright was frantically recording readings. Colonel, the creature's stress levels drop significantly when it hears human voices, especially children's voices. It's almost like it finds them comforting. Patricia Hayes felt the pieces of a puzzle beginning to fit together. Dr. Wright, what if this creature isn't from a warrior species? What if it comes from a species that values children and families above everything else? Then destroying it might be like killing a lost child who's looking for its parents. Wright replied quietly. Amy turned away from the window and looked at the adults around her. Can I talk to it? Maybe I can help it find what it's looking for. Absolutely not, Patricia said immediately. That's far too dangerous. But Amy had planted a seed of doubt in everyone's minds. What if they were wrong about the creature? What if it could be reasoned with instead of destroyed? High above them, Admiral Brooks was counting down the final minutes before the orbital bombardment would begin. The most powerful weapons in the human fleet were aimed at the creature, ready to reduce the entire area to molten glass. Time was running out for both the creature and the colonists, who were beginning to believe that their 8-year-old child might understand their enemy better than all the military experts combined. The orbital bombardment was scheduled to begin in exactly 37 minutes. Admiral Brooks had given her final orders, and every ship in the fleet was ready to fire. The most powerful weapons humanity had ever built were aimed at the creature that continued its relentless search through the ruins of New Haven Prime. In the underground shelter, Jake Morrison paced back and forth like a caged animal. His wife and daughter were somewhere above ground, observing the creature that was about to be destroyed. He had tried to contact them several times, but Colonel Hayes had ordered radio silence to avoid interfering with the final preparations. Amy Morrison stood at the observation window, watching the creature work on the remains of the colony's main computer center. She had been studying its movements for over an hour now, and she was more convinced than ever that the adults were making a terrible mistake. Dr. Wright, Amy said softly, can you show me the pictures of what the creature looked like when it first arrived? Kevin Wright pulled up the initial recordings on his tablet. The images showed the creature as it first landed, its massive form silhouetted against the sky, weapon ports glowing bright orange, sensor arrays fully extended. Amy compared those images to what she saw now. Look how different it looks. When it first came here, it stood up tall and proud like it was excited about something. Now it looks tired and sad. Dr. Wright examined the footage more carefully. Amy was right. The creature's posture had changed dramatically over the past 2 days. Its head hung lower, its movements were slower, and the bright glow from its weapon ports had dimmed to barely visible levels. It's exhausted, Wright realized. Whatever it's searching for, the failure to find it is taking a psychological toll. Colonel Patricia Hayes joined them at the window. She had just received another update from Admiral Brooks. 25 minutes until bombardment. Dr. Wright, do you have anything conclusive about the creature's intentions? Wright looked at his data, then at Amy, then back at the creature. Colonel, everything we've observed suggests this creature is not hostile. It's searching for something with increasing desperation. The neural patterns show classic signs of anxiety and loss. But we still don't know what it's looking for, Patricia replied. And we're running out of time. Amy tugged on the colonel's uniform sleeve. Ma'am, I know what it's looking for. The adults turned to look at the small girl. What do you mean, Amy? Her mother asked. Amy pointed at the creature, which had just finished carefully dismantling a communications array. It's looking for other creatures like itself. It's looking for its family. Dr. Wright frowned. How can you be so sure? Because that's what I would do, Amy explained simply. If I came to a new place to meet my family and they weren't there, I would look everywhere for them. I would check every building and every room until I found them or found some sign of where they went. Wright checked his readings again. The search pattern, it is consistent with looking for life signs or specific technological signatures. But why would it think its family would be here? Amy considered this question seriously. Maybe someone told it to come here. Maybe this was supposed to be their meeting place. Patricia felt a chill run down her spine. Dr. Wright, is it possible this creature was sent here by another species? Maybe as part of some kind of diplomatic mission or colonization effort. It's possible, Wright admitted. The creature's technology is far more advanced than ours. It could have been traveling for a very long time to reach this location. Amy suddenly became very excited. That's it. It's like when my grandparents were supposed to visit us last Christmas, but their transport was delayed and they arrived 3 days late. They went to our old house first because they had the wrong address. The adults stared at Amy as the implications of her words sank in. What if the creature had been given coordinates to New Haven Prime as a meeting point, but something had gone wrong? What if its family or companions were supposed to be here but never arrived? Or, Lisa Morrison said slowly, what if they were here a long time ago, and this creature is just arriving now? Dr. Wright was already pulling up geological surveys of the planet. We've been mining here for 20 years. If there were any signs of previous alien visitation, we would have found them. Would we? Patricia asked. We've been focused on extracting minerals, not looking for archaeological evidence. Amy pressed her face against the window again. The creature had moved to a new building and was beginning its careful dismantling process. It keeps looking at the ground too, like it's trying to find something buried. Wright's fingers flew over his tablet as he accessed the colony's mining records. Wait a minute. There have been several instances where our mining equipment encountered artificial structures underground. We assumed they were natural formations, or maybe remnants from the original terraforming. What kind of structures? Patricia demanded. Metal, alloys that didn't match local geology. Geometric patterns that seemed too regular to be natural. The miners reported them to the main office, but since they weren't valuable minerals, no one investigated further. Amy turned around to face the adults, her young face serious and determined. The creature's family was here before us. We built our colony on top of their meeting place. Now it can't find them because we covered everything up with our buildings. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, but time was running out. 15 minutes remained until the orbital bombardment would begin. Patricia grabbed her radio. Admiral Brooks, this is Colonel Hayes. Request immediate delay of bombardment. We have new intelligence about the creature's intentions. Admiral Brooks' voice crackled through the speaker. Colonel, unless you have definitive proof that the creature is not a threat, the bombardment proceeds as scheduled. Admiral, we believe the creature is searching for evidence of its own species, possibly family members who were supposed to meet it here. It may not be hostile at all. Colonel, I understand your theory, but we cannot risk the lives of 3,000 colonists on speculation. You have 15 minutes to provide concrete evidence or the bombardment begins. Amy looked up at her mother with tears in her eyes. Mom, they're going to kill it, aren't they? They're going to kill it before it finds its family. Lisa Morrison knelt down next to her daughter. Amy, the adults are trying to protect everyone. Sometimes that means making very hard choices. But it's wrong, Amy said firmly. It's wrong to kill someone just because they're different and you don't understand them. Dr. Wright was still analyzing his data when Amy made an observation that changed everything. Dr. Wright, look at where the creature is searching now. Wright looked out the window. The creature had moved to the exact location where the colony's first building had been constructed 20 years ago. It was digging carefully through the rubble, its massive claws moving with surprising delicacy. That's where the original landing beacon was placed, Wright said. The first piece of human technology installed on this planet. Amy nodded. What if that beacon was built on top of something that belonged to the creature's family? What if that's why it came here? Wright pulled up the original survey data from 20 years ago. His face went pale as he read the reports. There was an artificial structure at that exact location. The survey team noted it but decided to build over it rather than investigate. What kind of structure? Patricia asked urgently. The reports describe it as a metallic platform with crystalline components. They thought it might be a natural formation, but now... Wright trailed off. Now it sounds like it could have been a landing pad or communication beacon left by the creature's species. Patricia finished. Amy watched the creature continue its careful excavation of the site. It's trying to find the message its family left for it. But we built our whole colony on top of it. With only 10 minutes remaining until bombardment, Patricia made a desperate decision. Dr. Wright, contact the mining teams. Tell them to bring their heavy excavation equipment to that location immediately. Colonel, there's no time, Wright protested. There has to be, Patricia replied. Amy, you said you wanted to talk to the creature. This might be our only chance to show it that we understand what it's looking for. Amy looked out at the massive being that had been labeled a monster and a threat. To her, it just looked like someone who had traveled a very long way to find their family, only to discover that their meeting place had been destroyed. Can we really help it? Amy asked. I don't know, Patricia admitted. But we're going to try. As the final minutes ticked away, the humans began a desperate race against time to prove that understanding could triumph over fear, and that sometimes the smallest voice could carry the most important message. 5 minutes remained until the orbital bombardment would begin. Admiral Brooks watched the countdown on her command screen, her finger hovering over the final authorization button. Every ship in the fleet was ready to fire, their weapons charged, and targeted at the creature below. On the surface, mining teams raced toward the excavation site with their heavy equipment. Colonel Patricia Hayes had explained the situation over the radio, and the miners understood what was at stake. They had 7 massive excavation machines that could move tons of debris in minutes. Amy Morrison stood at the observation window, watching the creature continue its careful search through the rubble. She could see the mining vehicles approaching in the distance, but she knew they would not reach the site in time. Mom, Amy said quietly, I need to go talk to the creature now. Lisa Morrison felt her heart stop. Amy, absolutely not. It's too dangerous. But there's no time left, Amy insisted. The ships are going to shoot it in 5 minutes, and the miners won't get there fast enough. I'm the only one who can help. Dr. Wright looked up from his instruments. Amy's right about the timing. Even if the miners reach the site, they won't have enough time to excavate the alien structure before the bombardment begins. Colonel Hayes grabbed her radio. Admiral Brooks, request immediate extension of the deadline. We need more time to investigate the alien structure. Admiral Brooks' voice was firm. Colonel, I've already extended the deadline twice. Earth Command is monitoring this situation and they want this threat eliminated now. You have 4 minutes. Amy looked at her mother with tears in her eyes. Mom, please. I know I can help. I'd understand. Sometimes when animals are scared, they just need someone to talk to them gently. Lisa Morrison looked at her 8-year-old daughter, then at the massive creature outside. Every instinct as a mother told her to keep Amy safe. But every instinct as a human being told her that Amy might be their only hope. Patricia, Lisa said to the colonel, what if Amy is right? What if one child speaking kindly to this creature could prevent a war between our species? Patricia Hayes had led Marines into battle for 15 years, but she had never faced a decision like this. Dr. Morrison, I cannot authorize putting a child in danger. Then don't authorize it, Amy said, walking toward the door. I'm going anyway. Before anyone could stop her, Amy Morrison opened the door and walked outside. The adults rushed after her, but Amy was already running toward the creature with the fearless determination that only children possess. Amy, stop, her mother shouted, but Amy did not slow down. The creature was 50 feet away when it noticed the small figure approaching. It stopped its excavation work and turned its massive head toward Amy. Every weapon port on its body was dark, and its sensor arrays focused on the tiny human child walking steadily toward it. Colonel Hayes spoke urgently into her radio. All ships, hold fire. Civilian in the target area. Admiral Brooks watched the scene through her ship's cameras. Colonel, get that child out of there immediately. We're trying, Admiral, but she's not stopping. Amy Morrison walked across the debris-covered ground until she stood directly in front of the creature. The being was so large that she had to crane her neck all the way back just to see what she thought might be its head. Up close, she could see that its armor was not just metal, but a complex mixture of organic and artificial materials that seemed to pulse gently with internal light. The creature lowered its massive head until it was only a few feet above Amy. She could feel the warmth radiating from its body and hear the quiet humming of its internal systems. What she had thought were weapon ports were actually sensory organs that glowed softly as they examined her. Amy reached out slowly and placed her small hand against what appeared to be the creature's snout. The surface was warm and surprisingly soft, more like skin than metal. She could feel a gentle vibration, almost like a cat purring. Hi, Amy said softly. My name is Amy. Are you lost? The creature's sensors focused on her face, and Amy had the strangest feeling that it was looking directly into her eyes. She saw her own reflection in what must have been its visual organs, but behind that reflection, she sensed something she recognized. You're scared, aren't you? Amy continued. You came here to find your family, but they're not here anymore. The creature made a sound that Amy felt more than heard, a deep vibration that seemed to come from everywhere at once. It was not threatening or angry. It sounded sad and tired. I know how that feels, Amy said. Sometimes I have bad dreams where I can't find my mom and dad. It's the worst feeling in the world. The creature's head tilted slightly, as if it was listening carefully to her words. The glow from its sensors became warmer and gentler. Amy looked around at the excavation site where the creature had been searching. She could see pieces of strange metal and crystal scattered among the debris from the colony's buildings. Is this where your family was supposed to meet you? The creature followed her gaze and made another sound, this one filled with what Amy could only describe as longing. It gently extended one of its smaller appendages toward the scattered alien materials, touching them with the same careful delicacy it had shown throughout its search. They left something for you here, didn't they? Amy asked. But we built our houses on top of it so you couldn't find it. 1 minute remained until the bombardment would begin. Admiral Brooks was receiving urgent messages from Earth Command demanding immediate action, but she found herself unable to give the final order while watching the unprecedented scene below. Amy could see the mining vehicles approaching, but she knew they would arrive too late. The creature needed help now, and she was the only one close enough to provide it. I'm sorry we covered up your family's message, Amy said, tears running down her cheeks. We didn't know. We didn't understand that this place was important to you. The creature's sensors dimmed for a moment, and Amy sensed its overwhelming sadness and disappointment. It had traveled across the galaxy to reach this meeting place, only to find strangers living where its family should have been. Amy thought about all the times she had been homesick or lost or afraid, and how much better she felt when someone understood and cared about her feelings. She thought about the single word that her mother said to her when she had nightmares, the word that meant everything would be okay. Amy placed both hands against the creature's warm skin and looked up into its alien eyes. She spoke the word that carried all the love and comfort and safety she had ever known. Home. The effect was immediate and extraordinary. Every sensor array on the creature's body brightened with soft, warm light. The vibrations Amy had been feeling changed from sad to something like relief and gratitude. The creature's entire posture shifted, its head rising and its body straightening, as if a tremendous weight had been lifted from its shoulders. Most remarkably, the creature's weapon ports began to transform. What everyone had assumed were destructive devices revealed themselves to be sophisticated construction tools. Fabrication arms extended from its body, environmental processors activated, and holographic displays showed complex architectural plans. The creature was not a weapon of war. It was a builder, an architect, a creator sent by its people to prepare a new home. The coordinates it had been given were correct, but it had arrived centuries late, long after its people had given up hope and moved on to other worlds. Amy's single word had activated dormant protocols in the creature's programming, recognition, codes that identified the presence of an intelligent species that had already claimed this world. The creature now understood that this place was no longer meant to be its people's home, but it could still be a home for the humans who lived here. The creature gently touched Amy's head with one of its smaller appendages, a gesture that somehow conveyed gratitude and understanding across the vast differences between their species. Then it began to work, not to search or destroy, but to build. Using materials it had carefully sorted during its excavation, the creature began constructing new buildings to replace those it had dismantled. Its advanced technology created structures that were beautiful, efficient, and perfectly suited to human needs. Gardens bloomed where rubble had been, and clean energy flowed from devices the creature installed throughout the colony. Admiral Brooks canceled the bombardment and contacted Earth Command with a report that would change humanity's understanding of its place in the galaxy. The creature that had been labeled an unstoppable warbeast was actually a master builder, and an 8-year-old girl had succeeded where the most powerful military force in human space had failed. Amy Morrison became the youngest person ever to receive the Galactic Peace Medal, but she always said that the real hero was the creature who had taught everyone that sometimes the scariest strangers are just people looking for home. The being that the colonists came to call Builder remained on New Haven Prime, helping the colony grow into one of the most beautiful and advanced settlements in human space. And every evening when Amy Morrison looked up at the stars, she remembered that home was not just a place, but a feeling that could bridge any gap between different kinds of people, no matter how far apart they seemed to be.